After 237 days without Browns football, we are just days away from opening kickoff against the Panthers. In this video, we'll go through my full season predictions, game by game, and we'll see how stupid this video looks in February. Week 1 against Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers will be a very fun game, if anything else. Obviously, Stefanski and the Browns know Mayfield as a player inside and out. They know how he reacts to certain coverages, they know his strengths and weaknesses, they know it all, which will be a huge advantage. Mayfield struggles significantly under pressure relative to other quarterbacks, and the Panthers are starting a rookie left tackle, Ikem Ekwonu, who will make his first career start against none other than Myles Garrett. I expect Mayfield to struggle against this athletic Browns secondary that likes to disguise coverages, something that Mayfield really struggles against. I do like the Panthers' pass defense in this game, but I think they'll have trouble defending the Browns' high-powered running game. The trench play overall in this game heavily favors the Browns, which is why I like the Browns to finally break the curse and win a season opener by a score of 23-16. Before we continue, I just want to make a very quick announcement. I have launched a Patreon, which is a platform where you can support my channel as well as get exclusive Browns content like detailed weekly previews of every single Browns game, my personal Browns draft board with evaluations on dozens of players, and even my game film library that I use to make videos so you can watch film for yourself. If you like my Browns content and you want to show your support, check out the link in the description. I've also made the Browns-Panthers preview free this week in my Ultimate Preview series, so if you want a sample of what you'll be getting before you actually decide to join, make sure to check that out. Now, back to the predictions. Regardless of whether Zach Wilson is healthy for Week 2, the Jets are a very talented team. Now, I know they were not great at all last year, but they have significantly improved. Their defensive line is really good. They've got Quinnen Williams, Carl Lawson, John Franklin Myers, they even brought in a first-round pick in Jermaine Johnson. It's a very talented group. I think this is a game where Brissett has to throw a good amount because of how stout the Jets' run defense is, but the good news is that the Jets' secondary is very new. Their top two corners, 4th overall pick Ahmed Gardner and DJ Reed, will be playing just their second game as New York Jets. And with how important communication is in the secondary, they might not gel in time for Week 2. Overall, I do think the Browns are catching the Jets at a good time. Zach Wilson's health is in question, and they might end up facing Joe Flacco, and their talented but young defense will need some time to stabilize. I'm going to pick the Browns here 26-17, but keep an eye on the Jets later in the season. The Browns then have a short week as they host the Steelers on Thursday Night Football. Overall, the Steelers match up pretty well with the Browns on offense. The Browns' weakest position group, which is their defensive tackles, is built to be exploited by the Steelers' power run game with Najee Harris. The Steelers also have a lot of size at the wide receiver position with Chase Claypool and George Pickens, which doesn't bode well for Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome, who aren't really built to defend physical receivers and have struggled with guys in that Chase Claypool mold. The Steelers' defense has also done a good job keeping the Browns' run game in check in the past 2 years, and I'm not sure I trust Jacoby Brissett to air it out facing a blitz-heavy Steelers defense. I think the Browns struggle to control this game to suit their identity, and they end up losing 23-20. The Falcons are next up on the schedule in Week 4, a game that in this scenario is a nice bounce-back opportunity after falling short on Thursday Night Football. I really don't expect the Falcons to win a lot of games this year. They have a couple of promising stars, but they just have a serious lack of talent across the team. Their front seven is awful, their offensive line is even more awful, and outside of A.J. Terrell, their secondary is going to get picked apart. Give me the Browns 30-17 in a convincing win. In Week 5, the Browns host the Chargers, who I think are going to win the AFC West this year, but I don't have them winning this game. and I'll explain why. The Browns are perfectly built to beat the Chargers. On the offensive side of the ball, the Chargers' one weakness is their soft interior defensive line, which matches up terribly against the Browns' powerful running game. They do have one of the best pass rush duos in the NFL with Joey Bosa and now Khalil Mack, but the Browns are one of a handful of teams that have the offensive line to block them. And if the Browns can do that, they can target the Chargers linebackers, who are truly terrible in coverage, with the quick game passing concepts they will inevitably run with Jacoby Brissett. Against Herbert, I expect Joe Woods to use a lot of cover 4 to defend against the deep pass, which is the coverage Justin Herbert had his worst passer rating against in 2021. Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett will most likely take advantage of Chargers right tackle Trey Pipkins, who was a backup for all of last year on a terrible Chargers offensive line. In a game where the Chargers have to fly across the country for a 1 p.m. kickoff, I'll say the Browns win an upset 27-24. The Browns are home again for the second week in a row, taking on the New England Patriots. Most people expect the Patriots to take a step back this year, since everyone in their division got better while the Pats didn't do a whole lot. But I still think with Belichick they'll contend for a playoff spot. Their offense is very solid, for lack of a better word. They have 4 good, not great receivers, a top 10 offensive line, and a good running game. I think the physical brand of offense they play matches up well against a Browns defense that is more so suited to defend the high-flying passing offenses of the NFL. The Pats also have an imposing front 7 with a lot of hybrid-type players that Belichick likes to use in exotic stunts and blitzes, which I think Brissett will struggle against. Even after pulling off an upset in the previous week against the Chargers, I have the Browns falling short at home to the Patriots 27-22. Entering Week 7, the Browns are 4-2 and face the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. To be blunt, the Browns match up horribly with the Ravens. The Ravens defense is one of the most blitz-heavy units every year, and if you watch my Jacoby Brissett film breakdown, you'd know Brissett disproportionately struggles against pressure. I also foresee the Ravens' run game with Lamar Jackson at the helm, giving the Browns' run defense trouble, and are also getting a ton of players back from injury. It pains me to say it, but I have the Ravens winning this game 33-16 in a blowout. The Browns play another division opponent for the second week in a row, this time hosting the Bengals on Monday Night Football for their last primetime game of the season. The Browns have gone 7-1 against the Bengals over the last 4 seasons and look to extend that streak. The Browns' offensive line consistently dominates the Bengals' defensive line, largely because of just the athletic difference that the Browns' offensive line has over the Bengals. This is why Nick Chubb seemingly always has a huge game when playing Cincinnati. The Browns' defense did a great job shutting down the Bengals last year, in large part because they were able to leave Denzel Ward on an island with Jamar Chase without any problems. But the quarterback difference in this game is just too much for me to pick the Browns. The Bengals' new offensive line should be in full gear in late October, after maybe some hiccups in the first early month of the season, which could take this already explosive Bengals offense to new heights. I predict the Bengals to win a low-scoring affair though, 21-18, but to be honest, I wouldn't be shocked if the Browns managed to pull off the win. Coming off their bye week with a record of 4-4, the Browns would look to snap their 3-game losing streak against the Miami Dolphins. In my opinion, the Dolphins are going to be a very volatile team this year. I think they're going to have some incredible upsets against some top teams, and they're also going to fall short against teams that they should absolutely beat. They have a new exciting head coach, new weapons, and a new look offensive line. They're going to have games where they look like a top 5 offense, and they're going to have games where Tua struggles to get much going at all. The Browns will have a significant advantage in line play, and I expect Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney to terrorize the Dolphins' right guard and right tackle combo of Robert Hunt and Austin Jackson. The Dolphins' defense is very well-rounded and should play pretty consistent football, but I don't think they have any difference makers to match up with the Browns' offensive talent. Give me the Browns 27-19 in Miami. Week 11 against the Bills will be a different story. I'll make this quick. It's too much to expect Jacoby Brissett to go toe-to-toe with Josh Allen in Buffalo and come out with a win. I understand that the role of the quarterback is often overstated, and crazier things have happened, but the quarterback talent deficit in this game is just too much for me to sit here and say the Browns are going to win, even if the Browns' overall roster talent is better. Bills win 26-21. The last game of a Jacoby Brissett-led offense before Watson returns will be another difficult game. The Bucs are my pick to win the Super Bowl. I mean, their defense under Todd Bowles is loaded. Their fourth wide receiver is Julio Jones. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The Browns' run game should have a hard time against Tampa's front, consisting of Akeem Hicks, Vita Vea, and Shaq Barrett, which would mean Jacoby Brissett will likely have to try to convert long third downs, something he already struggles to do, against a defense that allowed the third lowest percentage of third down conversions in 2021. I don't see him doing so well, so I'll take the Bucs 30-13. Watson's first game is against the Texans, which is an interesting storyline, but other than that, this game should be, quite frankly, a cakewalk. It's a great opportunity for Watson to shake off the rust a little bit against one of the worst teams in the NFL. The Browns have no excuses, and I expect them to win by a score of 28-16. Next on the schedule is a rematch against Cincinnati for the first Watson-Burrow duel of what will likely be many over the next decade. For the reasons I mentioned earlier, the Browns stock up pretty favorably against the Bengals, and I think in this game, Watson instead of Brissett is the difference that gives the Browns the edge. The Bengals will also be coming off a stretch of physical games against the Steelers, Titans, and Chiefs, and might not be very healthy injury-wise entering this game. I have the Browns splitting the series and taking the victory back to Cleveland, winning 35-27. Another divisional game is on the docket in Week 15, as the Ravens come to Cleveland. We've already covered a lot of the schematics behind this matchup earlier in the video, so I won't repeat myself too much. But I do predict the Bengals to complete the sweep against the Browns. Like I said, their smash-mouth power run style of offense is not one the Browns are built to defend. The Browns invested their money in athletic defensive backs to defend the skies dominated by the Mahomes, Herberts, and Burrows of the AFC. I also don't think Donovan Peoples-Jones and Anthony Schwartz will have a great game. They struggle to beat press coverage, something the Ravens love to utilize, and unless they can step up in a big way, I expect Amari Cooper to receive a lot of attention and therefore Watson to struggle to find many guys open. Ravens 29, Browns 20. Week 16 against the Saints should be a sneaky good game, considering that both teams will likely be wildcard hopefuls around 500, battling for a playoff spot. Jameis Winston's range of outcomes is very large each season, and to be honest, each game, which is why the Saints could feasibly go 6-11 and could very well equally make a deep playoff push. They have the surrounding talent on offense, and I expect their defense to be a top 7 unit this year. The Saints had the best run defense last season, allowing just 3.7 yards per carry, which will make it difficult on Stefanski's run-heavy offense. And in a late December cold weather game where Watson has historically struggled, I don't love this draw for the Browns. The Saints, I predict to ruin our spirits on Christmas Eve and beat the Browns 27-23. At 7-8, the Browns would likely have to win out to have a chance at the playoffs. but their last 2 games are a little lighter compared to the rest of their schedule. First, you've got to go to Washington to play the Commanders, a team that intrigues me as a potential dark horse in the NFC. Ultimately, in this game, I think Carson Wentz falters against the Browns' pass rush, and Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt run all over what was a porous run defense in 2021, so I'll take the Browns 30-20. The last game of the season is pretty hard to predict because we just have no clue how the season is going to play out, obviously. This could be the game that determines the AFC North Division winner, a playoff spot, or it could be meaningless. Who knows? I will take the Browns, however, largely because I think Watson will have a great game against a suspect Steelers secondary, and I'll take the Browns by a score of 27-13. Wrapping things up, I have the Browns finishing 9-8 with a winning record. Now you might think that 9-8 automatically disqualifies the Browns from the playoffs, but in a loaded AFC, I think that this is the opposite. The AFC is going to be so good this year, which will result in a lot of cannibalization. It'll be really hard for a team to go 12-5 just because of how good all the teams in this conference are. So that'll do it. Make sure to check out my Patreon for exclusive Browns content. The Panthers-Browns preview is free to everyone as a sample of what you'll be getting as a reminder. See you next week to break down what hopefully will be a Browns victory to open up the season.